I see a problem that like a lot of these guys have whenever they rock Font or like they get him hurt. It almost seems like they rush it, and he's so good at just being able to grab onto something and just being able to survive.
Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
Adrian, I saw that getting this fight put together with Raufeon took some time. What did you learn from the whole process of putting this fight together at the top of the division? Because it's different from when you first entered the UFC.
Yeah, when this fight was getting put together, man, like I just immediately just started kind of going back and was like, I'm glad I was a fan of the guy, so I really didn't have to dig too deep to start doing research on the guy because I know like it made it easier for me because I'm just like, oh yeah, like I like watching his fights, I like watching him fight, before I got into UFC and all that stuff. So it was like the fact that he's still there at the top of the division says wonders. But it was super easy for me to go back and start watching his fights because I thoroughly enjoyed them. But now I had to just put a different lens on and just start looking at it as a, you know, this here, this there, that. Okay, this is what I need to do here. This is what I need to do there. So yeah. So the times I was watching him fight now served as a different purpose of looking at the fight and be like, all right, cool, yeah. This is a it was pretty cool kind of just seeing having to look at it from a different perspective, because I was a fan.
Yeah, you signed the contract in January, UFC 287 Miami, pay-per-view contender matchup. What do you think of Raufeon's fighting style?
Man, I love it. He's a scrapper. He's one of those guys that he's always going to come in and try to box with you, but I think he might take a different approach, especially he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He might try to take a safer route, because if you look at my record, 5 out of my last 6 fights haven't reached the distance. I've stopped 5 guys. So it's like, uh, looking at that, he's kind of like, well, he's on a roll, he's on a streak, he's been knocking people out. Let me take a safe decision. Which it's understandable on his end. He's had 2 tough fights, Jose Aldo, then Cheeto Vera, and then he has to fight a young guy who's coming up looking to take his spot. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun fight for me, anyways, though, because I get to solve which what type is he gonna know, how is he gonna come out, and it's also gonna be like, all right, cool, this is gonna work, this is gonna work, this is gonna work. So really excited because yeah, like I don't think he has that like take that safe route. He might want to try to take a safe route and try to maybe like point stall time out, but I don't think he has that in him. And I kind of want to wait. I kind of want to see if he tries that option because I'm not gonna give it to him, but I kind of want to see is like, does he even have that mode? Because yeah, he's just nonstop going forward. He puts up numbers, so I kind of want to see. That's the most intriguing part about this is like I know he's had uh two hard fights, losses, even though he still looked good in those. I don't know. Like I'm just like, yeah, like I don't think he's built that way, but you never know. I kind of want to see. So that's the part that's kind of intriguing me the most about this matchup.
Going back to your last fight against Tony Kelly in Texas, there was somewhat some animosity surrounding that whole situation, that whole fight. Was there a different level of anxiety or pressure that you dealt with in that?
No, I wouldn't say a level of anxiety or anything like that. I do remember that morning, that waking up that morning, I just wasn't, for some reason, I just wasn't in it. Like it was all hazy, but after a while, it kind of went away. But uh, yeah, there was some type of pressure added onto me, but like that was like kind of like at the back of my mind. Everything was just kind of just like I was super zoned in. So like I did a really great job of compartmentalizing a lot of those emotions, especially in the fight, going to the fight, getting in the cage and all that stuff. I was able to do a really good job of like kind of just setting that off to the side. But what I will say is that leading up to the fight, I was kind of I felt the pressure, especially kind of being like the Brazilians were like, if Brazilians were like really happy on my side. I was like, man, if I lose, they're gonna trash me. And then also, I didn't want to be the guy that loses to Tony Kelly, so I didn't want to be that guy either. So, uh, you know, everybody kind of looks at it like this, like you don't want to be the guy that loses to the trash talker and then gets to like ramble at the mouth right after the you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy walking with your head down. You were supposed to do everything was set up for you to be the good guy and all that stuff, so I didn't want to be that guy. So leading up to it, I felt the pressure, but once I got to the arena, none of that shit even bothered me.
What fight do you feel like you benefited most from in your UFC career so far?
Definitely I'll rank them in two. Uh, so number two would be the Davy Grant fight, and then number one would be the Randy Costa fight. Because in that Randy Costa fight, like I was like two fights into the UFC. I was already like, not that I was having a big head or anything like that, but I'm coming off of like two walk off KOs, so like there was like some sort of like like little peppiness and all that stuff. So coming in that first round, I thought I had Randy figured out. Like I had him figured out from like, it's like, no, he's this, he's wild, he's this, and it's like, yeah, it's gonna be easy night. Like you know, despite the stuff that was going on the outside, I was just like, it, you know, not, I respected Randy's game and everything, but there's just a mixture of shit that he did correctly in that fight, that made it so much like that in like 2 to 3 minutes in that round. I was like, fuck, like I gotta start doing something because it's just fucking me up. And yeah, like he threw head kicks, kind of made my slipping kind of like a non-factor on his end because I love slipping the jab, throwing crosses, overhands, and all that stuff. So uh seeing him like kind of disrupt a lot of my head movement and him pressing forward and cutting off the cage very well with the kicks, going to the body, trying to go to the head, kind of making that a small area. Like he pressed in. I honestly, in those moments, like I just underestimated Randy in a sense, but I knew the dangers that he had, and I underestimated like the fact that he was pretty smart, like in fighting. So there was just so many things going on. Like I underestimated him in a lot of areas, and pretty much like he did really solid. It took me like about 3 minutes to start picking up and start seeing like, oh, okay, like I'm getting my wits about me. I started going forward, started going to the body, started mixing it up, started putting my foot on the gas and started going forward. So it took me a second, but yeah, I feel like I learned from that one because I take that first round as an absolute loss, man. I was like, I'm never gonna do that again. I'm never gonna underestimate anybody again. Everybody's fucking top notch. I'm gonna overestimate these motherfuckers, So like it definitely put me back. So once I came back into that second round, I was telling my corner, I was like, man, I'm fucking better than this, man. I can't let this shit happen. I can't let this shit happen. So yeah, so that one I definitely learned a lot from because again, I thought Randy like didn't even know how to throw a jab. I think I even told him that right after the fight was over. I didn't even know he had that good of a fucking jab. I just so yeah. So I learned a lot from that one. Never underestimate anybody, even though I've told myself time and time again from before, uh whenever I fought in the regional scene, never to do that again, So it's always great to have a reminder, and that definitely is a solid reminder that fans will never let me live down either.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
That's the part of the game, right? Is that,
Mhm,
they'll always remember. The fans will always remember those aspects. But you came back and you got the victory, man. You made the adjustments. And I feel
mhm.
like Rob Font's team's gonna look at that first round. They're gonna look at the Davy Grant fight and pick it apart. And that's what I love about the game is like, what are they
Mhm.
gonna bring? Like you said, you don't know what he's gonna bring in this fight, and then now you have to counter that. You have to study yourself in many ways. Is that what you do? You do go back and study yourself and say, okay, this is what my opponents are gonna look at, and I gotta find out what they're looking at and be able to adjust myself to their game.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm always rewatching my fights, trying to see what's a better way for like. I'm always like, I almost kind of treat it like a lot of people like because I be watching my fights all the time. Everybody kind of looks at that as a little bit conceited, especially my training partners. Some of my training partners see that like rewatching my fights. I'm like, it's not for the reason you think. I'm trying to see where I could beat my own ass. Like I'm always putting myself like, man, if I was fighting me, what would I be doing? How would I kick my own ass? And I just start thinking, I start looking, okay, this I need to be tighter at. This I need to do this. It's easy to hold myself accountable. Like I know how to hold myself accountable in certain areas and all that stuff. So yeah, that's I go back and watch it all the time. Like, man, this fuck. As much as I hate watching that first round with Randy, I go back and I watch it just so I can know, like, hey, look, can't happen again, And then I go into the fights with Davey, and whenever I got a little bit too complacent, he would throw a heavy shot, and like I can't do that again, I got to make it. I didn't throw enough combinations in this area. I got to do this again. That shot, he should have addressed it a lot better, even though he didn't get close to coming to getting it. You know, I do a lot. Like I like rewatching my own tape as well, and just starting to see where I could do better and where I could have made it much more efficient on my end to get the job done.
Yeah, trading partners, friends, they're the ones that'll bust your balls about that. But yeah, you got to do it, man.
Yeah.
In ahead of John Jones's last fight when he was fighting for the heavyweight title, he talked about that. I mean, you saw the contrast, right? Cyril Gahn was playing
Hmm.
soccer with his friends. John Jones was sitting in his like basement watching film like during fight week. It's
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. I think if you're not doing that, I don't know. I guess everybody has their own ways, but yeah, it's very effective. Um, People are gonna look at this fight and they'll be like, "Oh, it's striker versus striker matchup." What makes your arsenal different from his?
Man, honestly, this there's a lot of similarities, but then again there's not. Like I am a little bit more counter evasive type of fighter that wants to be like in certain ways I'm more of a boxer puncher, and then uh I feel like Font is more of a brawler type sense where he's gonna put up numbers. It's not like whenever I say brawler, I don't mean it in an untechnical way. I mean he's just gonna continue to keep coming forward, throwing combinations and combinations, and for me, like I had to find my ways through the find my moments and capitalize on those moments that I get. So uh I guess that is honestly the biggest contrast is that I'm more of a I guess I'm more defensive minded and looking for the counters, and Font is just the guy who's just going to be aggressive, So pretty much that's the biggest thing. I know he might want to wrestle, he might want to shoot a little bit more, and that's completely fine for me because I don't mind it. But at the end of the day, I feel like if he doesn't get that shot, he's gonna have to. If he doesn't land a takedown at all, he's gonna fall back to wanting to throw the hands, and it's gonna be a fun day for me in that sense.
Well, you got Raufeon Stots shooting takedowns at you all
Oh yeah,
day, so what I mean. That's a good
oh yeah.
practice for anybody to shoot takedowns on you.
Oh yeah, nah, man, that's been a blessing, an absolute blessing to have Raufeon in my camp because working with him and also Eve Edwards and in the grappling department has like like shot my game in a different direction I didn't think was possible, because my offensive wrestling has gotten a lot better, my defensive wrestling has gotten a lot better, and now it was never really like big gaps in certain areas. Like it was just like, hey, you're not doing this enough, you're not doing that enough, you're not doing this enough, and then like I was like, okay, start fine tuning small little details, and then I have like a solid wrestler like Rafion, then I have someone on the outside just looking in, be like, hey, gotta do this, Eves, man. Then everybody knows Eves is thug jitsu, so he's been helping it out a lot. So man, I feel a lot more confident. Uh, just even going defending shots. Man, who knows, man? I might even take a shot.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but every single time I see Rafi, I'm just like, man, wrestling is stupid. Wrestling is stupid, but uh yeah, who knows, man? I
Mhm.
might take a shot, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't plan on it, but maybe.
Yeah, you never know, and a lot of people try to pigeonhole this fight too as well. They're like, "Oh, it's boxer versus boxer," but I think they forget that you have a head kick knockout. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, and it's also weird too because Font does like fighting in the clinch and throwing knees too. So it's like it's not a boxer versus a boxer, but we both like causing damage in whatever sense it is, So it is I would like to say it is a striker versus striker, but if I'm gonna say I'm gonna say it like this is the closest thing we'll get to a boxer versus a boxer in like just in like the UFC roster right now. Maybe you might be able to get that with Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, but Gaethje just throws a hell of a lot more kicks, and he is. I would say that one probably is equivalent to what we would do, but I know Font's going to be throwing kicks. He's going to be throwing knees. He's going to be throwing elbows. I'd like to do it with the hands because I like the way how a face feels on my knuckles, But head kick knockouts are cool too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, Age is going to be a factor. Durability is going to be a factor. I saw Aljamain Sterling's breakdown of this fight, and he talked about those things. Do you feel like there will be factors in this one?
I'm just gonna say like at time, Father Time is done a lot of things for us. Like, man, like me, it takes a little bit longer to recover now than the more I get older. Being 21, being able to go out there and just go out there and run 3 miles, go straight into a workout, and then right after do something else, and like be able to go still have fun and go out that night and go do like party things, with my friends. Yeah, those days are over for me. And but kind of looking at Font, he is on the like I think he's 35, 36, 35, and he's also taking some damage. So it might be wearing on him, but I'm not, it's one of those things that I'm not. It's also that if I lean into that, that goes into the me and the underestimating aspect, and I'm never gonna like again like right after that Randy fight, I was like I'm never gonna do that. So, uh, it's one of those things that yeah, I'm gonna take a look at it and be like, all right, that's a factor, but I'm not leaning on this because F- Font looked fantastic whenever he fought Cheeto. It's just Cheeto just caught him in certain areas, so he's still fucking dangerous, and I have to catch him. So that's the other thing. I have to catch him. I have to put it on him for him to feel that damage. So, for me, I'm not really looking too much into it, but I know that at the end of the day, that's something that is there. It's if people are putting the betting lines on putting bets on it, then that's something to take into account. But I'm not taking that to account at all. I'm treating him like he's in his prime. So that's exactly how I'm thinking about it.
Nice. The bantamweight division, man, is stacked at the top. There's so many contenders just lined up. We just saw Corey Sandhagen put on a super master class against Marlon Vera. What type of performance do you need to have? I know you're predicting a KO. That's what you want. Do you feel like it could come early, or do you feel like it's gonna come in the later round, like it's gonna come in the third round? Because Rob Font's just, we've seen him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. Man, I do predict a KO. It might be in the second round, but man, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't. I wouldn't be surprised if I don't. I just had to be patient because I see a problem that like a lot of these guys have whenever they rock Font or like they get him hurt. Uh, it almost seems like they rush it, and he's so good at just being able to grab onto something and just being able to survive, and that is definitely something I had to take into account. I had to make sure that I'm being very patient. As soon as I get him hurt, I can't just go balls to the wall and try to be like, everything. I'm just gonna run at you a fist and hopefully you hit the floor. No, I had to be very strategic on what I do next because after that, that dictates on what I'm gonna have to do to get the finish. So, on my end, I am predicting a finish. I'm gonna go ahead and say second round knockout, but you know, just the way he is, man, we might go all three in a fight of the night.
Fans are gonna be in for a treat, boy. This is a
Mhm.
solid one right here. Um,
Yeah, this is one of those fights for me that I'll just be like, man, you know what? If I could just like pull myself out, like
yeah.
not pull like leave whatever I got for fighting there, and then just pull myself out and watch it as a fan. I would definitely love to see that because I like at the end of the day, I am a fan.
Mhm.
I am a fan. Like I still think it's so fucking cool that like this opportunity is here and like
Yeah.
I'm in the UFC and all that stuff. So and I know what type of fighter Rob Font is it would just be cool just to be like, all right, you like meat sack, you go in there, you have all my fighting stuff,
Yeah,
like all like you have all my fucking fighting stuff. I'm just
yeah,
gonna sit back and just watch this shit.
yeah,
So I wish that would be possible, but that's not at all. So I'll have to watch it
yeah.
right after I get done fighting.
For sure, man. April 8th, UFC. 287 Miami, a phenomenal place to fight. Go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app. Adrian, thank you so much, man, for the time, and all the best, man, in this fight. No matter what, man, it's just gonna be a fan's yeah, it's a fan
it's
favorite
gonna be a
fight, man.
fun
Yeah,
night.
it's gonna be a
Yeah.
fun night, man. It's Miami, man. Where else?
Miami, and then get to chill right afterwards,
Yeah.
man. I hope to get a beer with Rob because I think he's a cool guy, and I've been a fan for a while, man.